possible with a max of 4 minutes per person. So if anyone wants to join the meeting and provide comment, you may do so via Teams. Our call-in number is 1-347-352-4853 with conference ID 713-638-039#. I do know that we have some public comment, and I wish to remind the board and members of the public that this is a time in which members of the public are able to present their views, and it's not a period for discussion. So any comments do need to be saved for questions directly to the public comment presenter after the board meeting. So any public comment? I'm going to give about a minute for anyone interested in providing a comment to join and do so. So any public comment? Hello?
Hello. Hi. I'm Lori Bransford. I'm here for public comments.
Perfect. The floor is yours.
Okay. Good afternoon, Lori. Good afternoon, Library Board President and Library Board members. I have 4 children, and when they were younger, we used to live at the library. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to start over. I have 4 children, and when they were younger, we used to live at the library. We would take our bikes and use the bike trail from our house in Slatterly Park, and bike to the library. Such good memories. Also, my friend and I, for many years during the month of October, would use the bulletin board at the entrance of the library to celebrate Down Syndrome Awareness Month. It was always a very welcome display from the library staff, and we got many compliments for doing it. The Rochester Library was a very welcoming place. How ironic, on March 2nd, 2022, a young woman with Down syndrome and some people with special needs from a group home were denied entrance to the library because of an overzealous adherence to masking at the tail end of a pandemic when the city was days away from removing that mandate. My daughter was the recipient of discrimination at the library because she was unable to wear a mask into the library, and library staff would not honor her medical exemption for masking. Yet, an airline honored her medical exemption when she flew last summer. Mayo Clinic has honored her medical exemption throughout the pandemic, even at its worst. Rochester Public Schools honored her medical exemption throughout the pandemic. A ferry across Lake Michigan honored her medical exemption throughout the pandemic. Rochester Pop Orchestra honored her medical exemption. All businesses around town have honored her medical exemption. Even the library has wear a mask into the library, and library staff would not honor her medical exemption for masking. Ironically, the day after this
sorry, 1 minute. I'm going to ask anyone who's recently joined
exemption throughout the pandemic, even at its worst.
Hello?
Hello.
I'd like whoever's joined the meeting to please mute yourself because you're providing feedback. Thank you. Sorry, Lori, you may continue.
Thank you. Even the library had at one point honored it on an RPS field trip. Ironically, the day after this happened, there was an unmasked participants in a small ceremony in City Hall. They were allowed to unmask during the ceremony. I'm to understand the main justification was to bar fringe groups from trying to abuse the medical exemption. However, for my daughter, it was obvious this was clearly not the case. This was an RPS field trip with RPS staff who were clearly identifying themselves. Therefore, it's disgraceful that the RPS school staff was not trusted. You're thinking that your policy is doing what's best for all and that some collateral damage is okay, but it's not okay, especially because you had many options other than turning my daughter away from the public library door. It was simply lazy. My daughter's experience completely contradicts the library's mission statement, vision statement, and a quote from former board chair Audrey Betcher. We are committed to being agile, responding to community needs, and increasing equity during this worldwide crisis. Please join us on this journey. It's very difficult to join the library on this journey when you're denied entry and for reasons that completely contradict the spirit of Ms. Betcher's vision. This incident should never have occurred. The library should step back, and be more thoughtful about their policies so this doesn't happen again. Though this rigid policy, both in wording and execution, may not have technically violated ADA law, it did violate common sense, a sense of decency, and the core principles that the library is founded on. If this continues, the virus will prove in time to have done far more than just make us sick. It will have turned us against each other and infected our souls. I want an apology issued to my daughter, RPS staff that were there, and every person with a legitimate medical exemption for masking who was turned away from the library. Also, I come here to help you see reason, and that hopefully something good will come from this unfortunate situation. To that end, I ask you to embrace a class that will teach those with special needs how to use the library as the RPS teacher intended. If you do this, the library will have reaffirmed the statements on the posters that state all are welcome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other public comment at this time?
Yes, this is Paula Harden.
All right, Paula, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to say congratulations, Karen, on becoming the new library director. I am confident you will be great. Madam President, I want you to know that you have been one of the best presidents since I've been paying attention in 2015. I would recommend as a policy change that the president be allowed to serve more terms of office. So should the board members, because the excessive churn of personnel does not provide the best long-term continuity on the board that it needs and deserves. For example, park boards requires that each board member be represented by a ward, not just all from one ward. Each member needs to come from one from each ward, and Heritage and Preservation allows many years of board membership. Another policy change that the former library director decided on her own without consulting the board was to deny public comment before committees. While it is true that Minnesota State open meeting law does not require public entities to allow open comment, all state law court decisions have found that despite the error in the statute, half of the point of public meetings is to give time for the members of the public to speak to board members or city councils who would not ever appear together otherwise. This went all the way up to the Minnesota State Supreme Court. Open meeting law also requires at least 3 days notification of all public meetings. This applies to special meetings in particular, such as irregular building and planning committee meetings, or if someone provides notice of a request to be notified of any and all public meetings, which I did in February and March of 2017. However, I was deliberately excluded from the subsequent building and planning committee meeting, despite written notice being given to both the director in February and the director and then president in March. I did not receive any notice until after August 2017 about any committee meetings. Committee meetings are always open public meetings. Joint meetings are also public meetings. So despite my written request to be notified of any all library building related meetings, I was never once notified of any of the joint building and planning committee meetings that took place with members from the foundation, the Friends, the board, the library and planning committee, as well as the inclusion of the former director and 2 selected, quote, involved in the library, unquote, residents in the community, with the exception of me, though I surely ranked as one of the most involved, having attended library board meetings monthly during at least all of 2017 and maybe 18, although I was kind of sick a lot of that year. And then I did manage to attend 2 building and planning committee meetings when they began again in 2019 until the city illegally eliminated the dedicated handicapped street parking from May 19, 2019 to fall 2020 and closed the parking ramp from about May through July to all use. I had a friend drop me off, essentially. Then after the pandemic, the library was closed to the public. Library recordings began in 2019 July, but they were not immediately live streamed despite the capacity to do so for many years from the main auditorium. And I don't think, but I could be wrong, that the board meetings were not live streamed until after the 2020 pandemic, which meant that able-bodied people weren't able to attend the meetings. No committee meetings of the joint committee meetings on the library's future were ever noticed to me or anyone. No minutes were provided to me as part of a Freedom of Information Act request, as well as other documents that I am now aware exist, but were still never provided to my data request. There should be minutes, summaries, votes taken, details of what took place at these meetings, including attendance. The Data Practices Act nor the Open Meeting Law specifies what form these minutes should take, but look at the packet for the City Council and their minutes. Look at the Park Board and their minutes. They have actual detail. Other boards and commissions and agendas are more than one pages with such sentences as, "We will discuss the library building," followed by, "We discussed the library building." Please consider this chance under the new library director to be a real board that initiates committee meetings that allow public comment per the Minnesota State Courts at all library meetings, including committee meetings. Do properly notice meetings, do a transcription of video recordings live stream, provide closed captioning, and provide better, more detailed agenda and minutes that actually say what people said, not just that X spoke about the roof. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula, for your public comment.
Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment from the community? All right, hearing none, I will officially call this meeting to order. Thank you, everyone. We will take roll call. I will start with Adam. Do we have any other public comment?
Here.
Kristen?
Here.
All right. Erin?
Here.
Rawi?
Here.
Steve?
Here.
Dominic?
Here.
Chloe?
Here.
Stephanie?
Description of video recordings live.
All right. Holly?
Here.
Scott?
Here.
Oh, wow. We have everyone. That's delightful. All right. First item is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion? All right. Holly?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. We will take votes by roll call. Before I do, I just want to make sure, are there any questions before we proceed? Okay, hearing none, I will start with Adam.
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
Rawi?
Aye.
Steve?
Yes.
Dominic?
Yep.
Chloe?
Yep.
Stephanie? Holly?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Next on the docket is our consensus agenda, seeking a motion.
This is Erin. I move to approve.
Thank you very much, Erin. Do we have a second?
And this is Adam, I second.
Thank you, Adam. Again, we will take votes via roll call. Any questions, however, before we proceed? Okay, hearing none. Adam?
Aye.
Kristen? Aaron,
Aye.
Rawi,
Aye.
Steve,
Sorry, yes.
Dominic,
Yes.
Chloe,
Aye.
Stephanie, Holly,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
And per a quick note for the sake of record, I am I for 4 and 5. Apologies for not counting myself. All right, so now we move on to 6, if you guys don't mind changing what's presented on the screen. We're moving on to President's Business. Thank you. We're going to start with a foundation report.
Hi, this is Brenda Cardock, Executive Director for the Foundation. We are just preparing we're heading into summer planning, and we plan to continue cheerleading for the library and talking about the things that they're doing great and the things that they need. Any questions?
Not from me. Any questions from anyone else? Thank you very much, Brenda. We appreciate it. Next on the docket is our Friends Report.
Hi, this is Val Kalashewski, President of the Friends of the Rochester Public Library, and we have our postponed Winterfest Auditorium sale. We'll be setting up tomorrow. Members of the Friends can shop from 5 to 7 p.m. tomorrow evening. And then on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday afternoon, the auditorium sale will again be open. Sunday will be our bag day, $9 for a grocery bag full of books. You can put as many in there as you can fit, and we double bag them so they don't rip out. And then the last thing is we discussed with some of the staff in Maryland, and we will be postponing the staff breakfast that normally would have been the first week in April during National Library Week. We're going to wait until there's more of a comfort level of eating in a group setting without masks. And that completes my report.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Any questions before we move on? All right, next is the Selco Report. Scott?
Yeah, I have not had a Selco meeting since the last RPL meeting, so I have no report.
All right, thank you very much, Scott. Next is our Youth Rep Report. Chloe or Dominic, do you have anything for us?
Oh, hi, sorry. I'm trying to remember. I don't think anything new happened at the last commission meeting. Dominic, you can help me if you remember anything. Yeah, I don't think we had anything of substance at the last meeting.
Got you. That's all right. Thank you very much. So that concludes President's Business. Any questions before we move on to new business? All right, moving on to new business, and we have our 2021 Minnesota Public Annual Report. Do you mind covering this one, Karen?
I can take it. Here's the draft of our annual report. Obviously, things are a little bit up from the prior, I think, circulation up over the prior year, but there is a nice, in the introduction part of the report, speaks a lot to our COVID response, which was continuing in the early part of 2021. And that is something that is that wasn't on every annual report until 2020, when there was this ask for really kind of some text to build around the numbers in the report. But some, key pieces were in early 2021. We were still, it's hard to believe, but we were still doing curbside pickup at the start of the year. And so we have information about that. And then, of course, switched to being open. We were still operating the call center. And that was taking a lot of our our time and capacity at the beginning of 2021. So our overall, again, our collection use was up over the prior year. Obviously, I believe our visits were up as well. Perna, correct me if I'm wrong on this. And computer sessions were up slightly as well. And overall, oh good, she's going to give me the number because I don't do math as well as Perna. Overall, our circulation was up 22%. So,
Thank you, Karen. Any questions from the board? Any questions from Scott's cat?
No. If I may, I don't have I would defer to the cat, of course. But I guess, as somebody who's new here, is there anything, as you look at the report, that really surprised you, that you didn't expect, or that you think is specifically significant?
I think the circulation myself, that number being up 22%, not having mathed prior to the meeting myself, that is, I obviously saw that it was up, but not that significantly. But other things really were in line with, I think, what we had expected. So, yeah, I mean, it's an unusual off year. It's not the same as everything was in 2019 or 2018. So,
and I'm assuming that circulation is up from 2020, right? Not from a previous base.
Correct. It's up from 2020.
Do we know how it relates to 2019, for instance?
That is something we could certainly get. Absolutely. I do not know off the top of my head.
These circulation numbers comparatively are in, I'm just trying to find it, the review of monthly reports. I think there's some circulation numbers there as a preliminary place to start, and then you guys can follow up. Sorry, Steve, I just was looking at it this morning.
No worries, just a random question. I'd just like to kind of know, are we kind of back to where we were, or are we still lagging,
We still have room for growth, yes. And I can say, so this is kind of a little bit of an aside, but our door counts, which we've been watching since we opened up fully in end of June in 2021. We had our highest door count the first week in March that we've had this entire time. And I cite two things. The kickoff of the seed library, which people went bananas for. Not that we have banana seeds. And I think that kind of feeling of resurgence and comfort of being out and being in public spaces. And so.
And Karen, forgive me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we're also seeing an evolution in the kind of materials that are being requested as a result of the pandemic. Like if you look at the adult internet use and access and kind of the digital materials, you'll see growth. So I feel like we have to also recognize that it's forced our patrons to really utilize our facilities and services differently.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how that susses out now that things are even more open than they were 3-4 months ago, as far as that comfort level of people being in a space. So, but you're right. When the pandemic started, our digital borrowing took off, and Kim, if you're on, you can even speak to that as well. But it's really stayed pretty high. Like people really, for those who weren't aware that we offer digital services, they found out when the pandemic started, and it's continued to be really popular. So
thank you so much, Karen. Do we have any other questions on the report from the board? All right. If we have no more questions, I will usher us along to old business, if that's all right. So old business.
Antonia, we do need a motion and approval for submission of the state report.
Thank you. Thank you for drawing that to my attention. I was looking at the signature line and did not remember. So seeking a motion for us to formally submit those materials.
I'll make a motion. This is Scott.
Thank you, Scott. Second?
This is Kristen. I second.
Thank you, Kristen. We'll now take votes via roll call, starting with Adam.
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
Rowie?
Aye.
Steve?
Yes.
Dominic?
Aye.
Chloe?
Aye.
Holly?
Aye.
And Scott?
Aye.
And then myself, aye. So the motion passes and this can be submitted. Thank you very much. All right, now we are going to move on to old business, starting with the 2023 budget.
Yes, so you will all recall that we are on a 2-year budget cycle. So we are in the second year of that 2-year budget cycle. We are really in that kind of early stages of the finalizing and of the budget, just at the beginning of that process, which is a very lengthy process. So for the 2023 budget, it's not formally adopted until December. So, but we are getting that process started, and I do hope to have an even more detailed update either next month or in May.
All right, thank you, Karen. Are there any questions from the board? No one dying to understand more about the intricacies of 2023 budget planning? Exciting stuff. Okay. With that, we'll move on to director's informational items, and we have Karen to talk about her initial priorities as library director.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad that I was tasked with doing this because it made me put this all down on paper. It's been a super overwhelming, in a good way, transition into this role. So much to do and learn, but it's exciting, and I'm really super grateful that we have some really good constants. You know, we have this incredible strategic plan that was built with community input. We have a really amazing administrative team that's worked to create impactful action plans and action items for this coming year. And overall, our library team is really dedicated to doing that work and to implementing those action items. And really, the support of our the city teammates has been really great as well, as we all move forward together and reemerge from COVID. And we've got some great volunteers and our friends at our foundation that's also really supportive. So that's very comforting. But we have lots to do. So I do have some specific action items that I want to focus on over the next, I call it the first quarter here. And the first one really, I want to focus on what I can do to support you, the library board, to set us all up for success. So one thing I want to hear from you, whether it's tonight or in an email or however, is how can I keep you as informed as possible? Because I do believe that there's no such thing as too much communication. So if hearing updates just at the board meeting is great and that's fine, then that's fine. But if there are other ideas or other ways that I can help communicate the great things that are happening. I think it's really hard to keep on top of all of the great things that are happening here. So I welcome any feedback for that. Also working to finish the onboarding. I apologize for forgetting 3 of you who have already gone through the onboarding process. Somehow I forgot and inadvertently sent you a message that you needed to finish onboarding, and you've done it. I skipped a year, but we are working through finalizing the last onboarding session. So if you have not completed your online orientation, once you do that, then I can do the second part of the orientation. Next week, we are, as an administrative team, attending the Public Library Association Conference. So this year I'm going to be going with a totally different mindset and frame. So I'm excited to do that. I'll specifically be attending library director sessions, and usually a lot of those options do involve how to work and better set up boards for success. So I look forward to that. At our last executive session, we talked a little bit about how to best re-engage with our strategic plan and highlight parts of the plan, just to kind of re-familiarize ourselves with the plan that was adopted in 2020. Right before the pandemic. So to that end, we're going to be highlighting strategic priorities, and at least that's an idea, to highlight a strategic priority each meeting. The second thing is I'm really focusing on supporting our team by listening a lot and learning a lot and acknowledging, our team has a new dynamic. So we're kind of working through that. And we know that we're going to be adding a new person to the team when we fill my old role. And we hope to do that very soon. So my goal is that we can get that posted this Friday so that we can get somebody in place by this summer. As a team, an administrative team, we're working through how we keep our projects moving forward, how we start bringing back more programming and keep our desks functioning and doing all of this, knowing that we're going to be going into another summer where we have, more open hours over the summer months, most likely. And at the same time, we're still down a couple of positions in the library. So that has been a challenge. And we've also added our connected Chromebook initiative. So there's been a lot of work associated with that. So we know that we're not coming back as the library of 2019. Like, we've got to refigure out how to put everything back. We're also celebrating our volunteers, who I consider part of our team, and that will be happening in April, and we're just really grateful for them and their time. And then, of course, my third thing is we're all really doing this work to be of service to our community. So we're in this state of re-emergence, and you'll remember that we had the construction going on around the library, and then we went right into the flood in September of 2019. We're just recovering from the flood when COVID happened. So we really had 3 really off years, and we're ready for this kind of comeback. We're back open and come back, and so that's really what I want to focus on is getting us re-emerging. So again, we are working. One really important piece of that is our hours research project that we've really been doing. So next month we will be bringing that back to the board with a recommendation. So those are the initial activities. Any questions or comments?
I'm excited for all that you have planned. I think it's ambitious, but I think that's good. So thank you for sharing it with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I agree, Karen. I really appreciate the comments around we're excited to have people come back to the library and welcoming our community back inside our doors. I think it's what the community needs to hear. We heard some of that from our public comment even this afternoon. So just really excited to see how that unfolds in the next several weeks.
Excellent.
Sorry, I am slow because I'm being, what's the word? I wouldn't use harassed, but there's a 6-year-old asked me to download some math game. So my apologies if you hear anything in the background. If we have no questions for Karen, then we will move on to library board informational items, starting with our very expensive roof.
Yes. So City Council did approve the contract for roof repairs. it will be nice to not have buckets in offices and spaces.
All right, thank you. Then any questions on the roof? Okay. Then next we have the book collection access locker update, which is probably what I'm most excited about.
Andy.
Yes, so we're hitting some supply chain issues with, it's more of a vending machine than a locker system. So it is going to be a curated collection of materials that we're going to focus on an area that we have lower library card usage, and we're going to hope to use it to build connections with that community. And we're hoping to tailor the collection to the needs of that community. We're about 13 weeks out right now, but when I asked them that 6 weeks ago, they said 13 weeks out then.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions about the library cabinet?
Just try.
All right, then we are going to move on to the equity update. And don't say I didn't warn you. Not about the equity update, Karen. That was about the child. Sorry.
So here's our equity update, continuing our ongoing training with staff and working through that. And we've been working with the city, cross city, as part of the citywide DEI team, talking about ways to honor Juneteenth and how that might look in the city. So we may have an update at an upcoming board meeting. And then some of the other activities include really just some of those ongoing things like we're building a data dashboard for our library that includes, we're kind of looking at where we can better target our efforts for marketing, which again, that will be the new communications person's role. And we are also continuing with our connected Chromebook project. Like I mentioned, that's been a really significant project. And we did just send out a survey, so kind of a halfway point check-in with our connected Chromebook users. In a couple of months, we will have that to share with you as well. We're collecting those outcomes to hear how this program has really impacted community members. We do have a couple more Chromebooks left, so community members who are without access, we do still have a couple available. So please share that in your networks, because we do want to get these out into the hands of people. But last I checked, it was in the upper 800s, low 900s out. So it's really a significant project. So any questions on that?
No. Well, I guess that is a question. Will the team be coming back with some, reporting data in coming months as we continue to see utility?
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
Just as we continue to see utility from the Chromebooks. Just wondering.
Oh, yes,
some reporting.
We absolutely expect to bring some kind of report back about this initiative, because we expect some really positive outcomes. I mean, our hypothesis is this is an impactful program, so it'll be interesting to see how people are using them and what some of their comments were. So yes, expect something in a couple months. I could have answered that faster, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you so much. Any questions for Karen on the equity update? All right, hearing none, we will move into sharing strengths, and we do have a strategic plan review.
Yes, so what our, plan is to really take our strategic plan and look at it. and see, even just highlight one of the strategic priorities and what we're doing for those priorities, if that is helpful, because again, not everyone has, some board members were very intimately involved with this process, and some of you may only be seeing, have only seen this, right when you went through your orientation. So how can we best kind of engage with this document? So for example, strategic priority, that first one, priority A, some of the items on our action plan this year is, one of the big things, again, it's community members feel safe and welcome in library spaces, and our Hours project really speaks to this one, and the implementation of our Hours and reaching out to the community and sharing about Hours is really one of the big ones that we're working on for this year when it comes to that priority. So my question to you really is, what is the best way to engage with the strategic plan?
I can't speak for the whole board, but I think that coming in person in April and being able to see the updates on the wall will be really impactful. I miss that. I miss understanding how we're advancing, you know what I mean, towards our goals. So that might be a first step.
So it's interesting that you say that. We just had a meeting today about updating that wall and how we want to approach that. We are similar to what we did previously. We really worked to align our strategic plan and see where it merged with the city's strategic plan and the strategic priorities of the city. And so we're a little bit kind of stuck on that space in how do we make this wall that really kind of encompasses all information. The data wall before was a lot of text and a lot of outcome measurements and very specific little text. And we would like it to be even more engaging and really tell the story better. So and I'm struggling with what the best approach is, if this is something that is an executive committee, something I should put on for the executive committee, or is it a planning committee? Is this a...
No, that's a good question. I think let's take time offline to think about where it best falls, and then we can see if whomever chairs that committee is willing to kind of incorporate that into theirs. Maybe we can start at exec committee discussing where it might live and then move on from there.
That sounds great. Perfect.
Thank you. I'm really happy that we're continuing to make this a priority. Obviously, it's our strategic priorities, but I'm just saying I'm glad it's top of mind. Any questions for Karen? All right. Well, if we truly have no questions, it is the end of question time and we are able to adjourn. I want to thank everyone for their time. And I want to remind everyone that April is an in-person meeting. Yes? All right.
Yay.
So I look forward to seeing everyone there. And if you are new to the board and have not come in person before, I would contact Karen and or Perna to just make sure you have your card to facilitate kind of easier entry into the library. So happy to answer any questions as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a great, great day. Bye-bye.
Have a good night, all.
Bye,
Bye,
thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Good night.